thing is, Bob, it's not that I'm lazy. It's that I just don't care.
Don't care?
It's a problem of motivation, all right? Now, if I work my ass off and Initech ships a few extra units, I don't see another dime. So where's the motivation?
That was Ron Livingston playing Peter Gibbons in the 1999 comedy Office Space. If you haven't seen it yet, you should. It came out 20 years ago this month. But our next guest notes that the scene feels like science fiction from a distant realm. In her piece for the New York Times, Why Are Young People Pretending to Love Work?, Erin Griffith writes about how the current generation has let their lifestyle be defined by what she calls performative workaholism. So Erin joins me now from San Francisco. Erin, great piece.
Hi. Thank you.
And as I read it, I thought to myself, this sort of thing has come up before. There's been pushback. I remember maybe a year ago or maybe a few years ago, there was this idea that being busy was the new humble brag, that you would ask people how they are. They go, oh, I'm so busy. And that was supposed to be a good thing, right? So walk us through your article. What is performative workaholism?
Well, I mean, workaholism is not new, but I think what I've realized, especially among my generation and especially here in San Francisco where the tech industry is dominant, it's not just a lot to work long hours. You also have to love it. You have to brag about it, and you have to make your job part of your identity, basically. And I've realized that that's kind of grim. And as startup culture expands into the broader business culture, which it has been for the last few years, that becomes a little problematic. And so I wanted to kind of explore why that is and what the consequences of that are.
Yeah, when I read it, I recall the conversation that I had with an anchor, the first television station I ever worked at. And he was sort of the main anchor, and we had a long weekend, and he came into work, and he said to me, "Isn't it great to be able to come back into work? You just feel so fulfilled." And I remember thinking, well, I like my work, but I love my family. And no, I actually had fun on the long weekend, but it didn't seem like the appropriate thing to say in the workplace. And you talk about hashtag thank God it's Monday. When did this shift happen? We just showed a little bit from Office Space where, it was fine for the characters to say this kind of blows right now. How did this happen to us?
Well, part of it is that we are just never not working anymore. I mean, we have Slack or email on our smartphones, and we're not even taking really sick days anymore. We're just working from home. And so part of it is that work has invaded all aspects of our lives. And part of it is just that the tech industry and their culture of overwork and hustle has kind of infiltrated the rest of the business world. And so we sort of all feel that way.
And you sort of detail how convincing a generation to join the hustle culture, if you will, is actually really convenient for the people at the top.
Yeah, I mean, you see people like Elon Musk tweeting about how Tesla may not be the easiest place to work, but you never change the world in 40 hours a week. And that just feels really sad. And all companies today seem to have this kind of change the world mission as a way to motivate their workforce. But the problem is when you realize the reality, most jobs are kind of tedious, and there might be some great aspect or mission to them, but you're not really changing the world every single day. It's just business. And when people kind of come to that realization after having bought into this really high-minded mission, it becomes kind of disappointing, and I think that's what leads to burnout, which we're seeing a lot more.
Yeah, in fact, you referenced an article that we had actually had another interview about, a BuzzFeed article about burnout, and it was sort of, they were showing it a bit, and it was sort of talking about the fact that burnout looks different in millennials. That we have a tendency to sort of say, oh, these millennials, they can't even mail a letter. But maybe what we're ignoring is that they're burnt out, and so it becomes really hard to get some of the other really important things done in your life.
Yeah, it's sort of, that article was fascinating because it really crystallized the fact that millennials' expectations of what their lives were supposed to be have not really lined up with reality, and that sort of is parallel with what I'm talking about with the mission-driven work that they're signing up to do and then finding out that maybe it's not as fulfilling as they wanted it to be. And, a lot of jobs are precarious. A lot of people are working in the gig economy. Union membership is down. There are a lot of of macro factors that feed into this kind of disappointment, and that has led to this sort of generational burnout that everyone's talking about now.
And the other thing that I thought was sort of interesting in your article, that you kind of muse about how it's difficult for us to find meaning in the ways that we used to before. That, you know, religion doesn't do it for us anymore, and perhaps we're so eager to fit into this structure because at least it gives us a sense of meaning, however exhausting it is.
Yeah, it's a little. I don't know if that's
right.
sort of just my my theory.
Yeah.
But when you see people, you know, using these hashtags like rise and grind and do what you love and trying to infuse meaning into jobs that, you know, they're account managers, you know, they're selling things. It just seems a little off-putting and bizarre to me. So I really wanted to dive in and understand that more.
Well, it is a great article. I encourage people to read it and be a little honest with themselves. It's okay to say, you know, I didn't want to come in today on Monday, but I did because I have to, because I have bills to pay, and that's okay too. Erin Griffith, thank you.
A job can just be a job.
Exactly.
Thank you.
It doesn't have to be your whole identity. Thank you so much, Erin.
Thanks.